Welcome to the Private Lenders Podcast with your hosts from Hard Money Bankers, Jason Balin and Chris Haddon. This podcast is sponsored by hardmoneymastermind.com.
Hey everyone, Chris and Jason here. Thank you for checking out the show. Today we are doing a preview of the November 2024 Inner Circle meeting. We're leaving tomorrow morning for Tampa. This is meeting number 5, right? We had 2 in Maryland, then we had Nashville, then we had Dallas. I believe this is meeting number 5, unless we had 3 in Maryland, but I don't think so. As always, we're stoked. We have a cool agenda planned. We're going to talk about that, some of the things we're going to be doing, some of the people that are going to be there and what they're presenting on, and kind of how the whole format works. And that's what we're looking forward to and what we're thinking about going into it. And then, of course, after we get back, we'll recap everything that went down.
Yeah, the goal of the Inner Circle Mastermind group has always been to get, the top private and hard money lenders throughout the country, into a room a few times a year and just, not just network and chat, but like have kind of a formal itinerary where everyone can kind of open up, share ideas, see what's working, what's not working.
Yeah.
We've always done the brag-esque share setup where in essence, spend a minute, brag about yourself. Don't be shy, don't even be humble, right? Like tell everybody what's up so everybody knows the situations. I remember some past years, we had a few folks that had quite a bit of their own money and, they only had like 5 or 6 million on the street at that time. And they were like, I'm not nearly as big as everybody else in this room. They were kind of shy and timid. And I'm like, you're also one of the biggest real estate agents in the whole freaking country. Like you can tell, like there's a lot of value to that. You can still share that. Some other people have some gigantic businesses that they have sold. So just because they're only a few years into their lending portfolio doesn't mean that they don't have a lot of other value to share. So we do that brag, then we do the ask. And everybody opens up and is very transparent. The goal of the room when people apply to be a part of the group, like it's not just you getting value from other folks, it's you providing value to other folks, and we all grow together. There's a lot of different states represented throughout the country, so people are asking questions of things that they could use help on, and then they get to share either a new software, a new tool that's working for them, maybe a new tip for a hiring strategy. But it's a good setup and it's a good room, and we have to have a very big vetting process because we want to make sure everybody can benefit from each other in that room. That's right. Important. There's only so many spots. We've been involved in mastermind groups before, and it's hard to have any more than 30 people because it's just too, there's only so much time in the day, and people are busy running their operations.
And also, you don't want to run these more than 2 days of masterminds because they're heavy. They're heavy days. Oh, that reminds me. Do you know where I initially got that brag, ask, share format of a mastermind?
I don't.
Tim Ferriss. That's how Tim Ferriss broke his down, in essence, out. And that's a common way to run a mastermind group is to, first of all, when the most important part is to not turn it into a presentation about how awesome you and your company are that's going to take up your whole time. And I remember Russell Brunson, when we were in his group, said the exact same thing. We know your business is awesome. Let us know what it's about, but it's not a PowerPoint presentation on how awesome your company is. Like use most of your time for the ask. The ask is that's like the meat and potatoes of like, here's what I'm working on. Here's what I want to grow or improve. What do you guys think? Right. And people are going to have great insights, great feedback. And like we always say, sometimes you learn a lot more. You take away a lot more from other people's than you even do your own. Right. Because you don't know about that challenge, about what they're working on. You don't know that you needed to know it. Right. So that is the bulk of the thing. We have some other cool stuff going on. We typically do a couple quick presentations. Like I'll do a 30-minute one day. Jason will do a 30-minute one another. Our lawyer Harris, who works with a lot of people in the room, sometimes he'll do a thing about anything legal going on. We'll have a guest here and there, so that happens. Day 1 is golf. I'm looking forward to that. So we're going to a
pre-day one, not
pre-day one. Yeah, that's right.
Thursday right. Golf is who wants to get there early and do an event.
Playing a really cool looking club in Tampa on the water, and then I guess it kicks off that evening with the like meet and greet kind of happy hour. And granted, like I was looking at the itinerary, and the majority of the room has been there for several meetings now, and they know each other and they communicate. They're friends. Like it's not like about you and I just, leading the whole show, because it's grown beyond that. It's grown into more than that. And then we do have some really cool additions to the room. A couple new lending groups that we've spoken to, done some intro calls with, stuff like that. But this is the first time we'll hang with them in person. So, yeah, I mean, a couple things in particular that I'm looking forward to. I know that our friends at Crown Capital in Texas are in the middle of a big fund raise, in a capital raise, meaning in an actual Reg D fund. And I know that a lot of the members are interested in fund model. I understand why. The majority of the room is doing a co-lending sort of model, or some guys and gals are just lending their own funds exclusively because they got real deep pockets like that, and they're earning a good rate of return on it. A lot of them are co-lending, and a few are running a reg fund. But people are curious about that, right? Like that could potentially be the next evolution in some of the members' lending businesses. There are pros and cons. We don't have to we have plenty of other material about that. There's plenty of pros and cons between co-lending and funds, but still, it's good to know them. It's good to know the inside and out of people who are operating, not just like the on paper, like here are the facts about how a fund works, but like you operate this day in and day out, doing loans, getting paid off, managing investors, reporting everything else. Like, what does that look like when you actually run one? Not just from like, the legal opinions of an attorney. Like that tells us something, but there's a lot more to the story. So I'm definitely looking forward to that one.
There's at least 5 groups that are using a fund.
Is that right?
Yep. There's at least 5 groups. I'm not going to name them publicly, but I'll talk to you about this afterwards. Yeah. But there's 5 groups that are using a fund. I would say, based on this, it's a third direct placement, third fund model, and third, self-funded that are just, running their business with their own funds, and they're either not at a point or don't ever want to be at a point to take on additional capital because they don't need it. So they're just going to, continue to lend their own. And, the challenging part with some mastermind groups, there are different people are in different spots of their business. That's always been a challenge that we have on the Private Lenders podcast and inside the mastermind group is, we might talk to an audience, a particular audience on like defaults, for instance. But like, if you're earlier in your career as a lender, like you probably hopefully you haven't had any defaults yet. So not that it's not an important topic to discuss, but it's because it's not relevant. It kind of just goes in one ear out the next. But then in a year from now, you might have defaults, and it's topic of conversation. So we when Chris and I do presentations, we like to do something kind of on the front end and marketing and growth and infrastructure, and then something on the back related to either raising capital or investor relations or default stuff. And Chris's presentation is related to some default management, and typically Chris will go day 1, I'll go day 2, and we're going to flip flop that because who wants to start off the day just talking about defaults and things like and things like that. And also you want the room to be open and transparent with each other. So if we're trying to do like case studies of some default situations, it might not be best to do. So like my presentation is going to be streamlining the front end from new lead to loan closing. I think a lot of lenders don't really fully understand how we go through tons and tons of leads on a daily basis and how our scripting and our process works. And kind of it's pretty simple, I would say, but at the same time, like it took us a long time to learn it and to perfect it. And, we have multiple offices that do in essence the same thing. And, if we're very big on, building rapport and needs analysis and understanding the situation and figuring out the structure on these deals. And, again, you got to do it on the phone, kind of on the fly, quickly, but wisely. You don't want to give up deals, but at the same time, listen, if the borrower is not qualified, you can't spend an hour on the phone with them. It'll take you all day to do. So we have a lot of scripting that we're going to go through with the group. So go through our marketing calendar of what we do on a regular basis to get incoming leads. How we're scripting them, how we're passing them off to our loan processors and our portfolio managers internally. How we're doing like quality control. I know a big thing because I know a lot of members in this group that started in the group maybe about 5 million or so, and now they're at 20 million or so. And they didn't have employees at the beginning. They didn't have defaults at the beginning. They're at different spots in their business, and they have different challenges now than they had then. And I know one of the big growth challenges is hiring the right person and managing the right person and figuring out kind of inside the operation if they're doing the right things or if they're overlapped. Too many lenders, are involved in too many processes inside the business, and we kind of like to share what works and what hasn't worked for us because we've done it over the last 18 years. There's been a lot of trial and error. We know some of these things just from going through it. And I know there's a lot of extremely successful people in this group. And a lot of it was like, I want to be involved with lenders that are doing this stuff day in, day out. So I can learn from them and I don't have to learn the hard way, because no one wants to learn the hard way.
Well, that's what masterminds are for. Like one member said in the past, like it's just the best cheat code in business is joining a mastermind specific to what you're trying to learn and grow. And like you said before, and you mentioned this kind of briefly, but there have been a number of people in the group who have come in at that 5 million kind of range and really want to build this thing out, scale it, bring on staff, and go from that 5 million to 15 or 20 million during the couple years they've been in this group. And so that's been super cool to see, right? And it's kind of, in most markets, repeatable. Like you follow the formula, here's what it looks like, do safe loans, here's how you market, underwrite. And then when it's time to hire, when it's time to, bring on staff, bring on the right software, and then there's a roadmap for that too. Because this like 0 to 20 million private lending model in most major metro areas of the US is very replicable, right? Like you can repeat this over and over based on stuff that everyone in the room, for the most part, has already done and been through themselves. So that like, it's just super cool to be able to see the lenders in the group apply the blueprint and get to where they want to go. Because that's what it's all about, right? Is hitting those numbers, that lifestyle you're looking for, just all of it down the line.
Yep. No right or wrong way to do this business. Well, I mean, I guess there is kind of a wrong way to do this business, but like you don't have to do it the exact way that other people do it. That's the beauty of it. And, as long as you're writing good loans and you're taking care of the capital that you're responsible for, you can be big, you can be small. There's some group members that have aspirations. I mean, some folks in the group have $100 million deployed. Right. Yeah. And there's a lot in the $20-30 million range. Right. And different people are in different places. Right. There's nothing wrong with just wanting to use this as an investment vehicle to deploy your own capital responsibly at a high level. There's also, nothing wrong with turning this into a very large company and, supplying yourself and your investors with very, very good returns and taking care of your real estate community by providing them capital.
Yeah. I mean, it works at all different sizes. It really does. As long as your P&L's in line, it can be a large portfolio, small portfolio, like the P&L can still be, the take home can still be very, very good. So that's the preview, guys. We're going to go do our thing. We'll be taking as many pics and videos as we can so we can put them out to all of our channels, and stay tuned for the recap, which we'll do once we get back in town. Let everyone know exactly what went down at the Inner Circle. We appreciate you guys listening and watching, and we'll see you next time on the Private Lenders Podcast.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast. Please note that the opinions stated by all the speakers on this show are only opinions and not intended for legal, financial, or accounting advice. Please make sure to always check with your own legal, accounting, and financial professionals. If you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast, we'd appreciate it if you would spread the word. Make sure to check out hardmoneymastermind.com, the #1 free community for new and experienced private and hard money lenders.